The rain hammered against the tinted windows like bullets, each drop a tiny percussion that made my heart jump. I pressed my palm against the cool glass, watching the world outside blur into streams of neon and shadow. The leather seat beneath me was so soft it felt like sinking into quicksand. Expensive. Suffocating. Wrong. Don't get out. Trust me. His voice cut through my panic like a blade wrapped in velvet. I turned to look at him, this man whose name I'd learned only 3 hours ago, whose world I'd stumbled into like a moth flying straight into a flame. Dante Moretti. Even sitting perfectly still in the back of this armored SUV, he radiated danger. The kind that didn't need to announce itself. His suit was charcoal gray, tailored so precisely it looked like it had been sewn directly onto his body. A thin scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, barely visible unless you were close enough to smell his cologne. Bergamot and something darker. Gunpowder, maybe. Or power. The police, I whispered, my voice cracking. They're surrounding us. I'm aware, Mia. The way he said my name made my stomach flip. Like he'd been saying it for years. Like he owned it. Blue and red lights painted the inside of the car in alternating waves. Through the rain-soaked windows, I could count at least 6 police vehicles boxing us in. Officers emerged like shadows, weapons drawn, voices muffled by the storm, but unmistakably commanding. This morning, I'd woken up in my cramped studio apartment above the Chinese restaurant on 5th Street. The radiator was broken again. My breath had formed clouds in the air as I'd pulled on my only pair of work pants, the black ones with the small bleach stain on the thigh that I always tried to hide with my apron. Now I was trapped in a vehicle worth more than I'd earned in 10 years. Next to a man who apparently had half the city's police force trying to arrest him. This is a mistake, I said, reaching for the door handle. I shouldn't be here. I need to explain. His hand caught my wrist before I could touch the handle. Not violently, not even forcefully, but with an absolute certainty that made me freeze. Don't. His dark eyes locked onto mine. You walk out there now. You become part of a story you don't understand. They'll take you in, question you. And I won't be able to protect you. Protect me? A hysterical laugh bubbled up my throat. You're the reason I need protection. 12 hours ago, I'd been serving tables at the Augustin, the kind of restaurant where the wine list had prices that made me dizzy. It was supposed to be a simple catering gig, extra money to pay off the medical bills from when I'd gotten pneumonia last winter. My roommate Sarah had gotten me the job through her cousin. Just serve the drinks, smile, don't make eye contact with anyone important, she'd instructed. I'd followed those rules perfectly. Until I'd accidentally walked into the private dining room on the 3rd floor. The door had been unmarked. I'd been looking for the service elevator, my arms aching from carrying trays of champagne glasses. The hallway had smelled like expensive cigars and older money. When I'd pushed through what I thought was the elevator door, I'd found myself in a room that fell silent the moment I entered. 12 men, all in suits that probably cost more than my yearly rent. All staring at me like I was a ghost who'd crashed their funeral. And at the head of the table, dealing cards with long, elegant fingers, had been him, Dante Moretti. I'd recognized the name from whispered conversations in the restaurant's kitchen. The servers always went quiet when his reservations came through. The managers straightened their ties and personally oversaw his table arrangements. I'm so sorry, I'd stammered, backing toward the door. I was looking for... stay. That single word had stopped me mid-step. Not a request. A command wrapped in silk. He'd set down the cards slowly, deliberately, his eyes never leaving mine. What's your name? Mia. Mia Chen. I'm with the catering staff. I'm lost. One of the other men had started to stand, his hand moving toward his jacket, but Dante had raised one finger, just one. The man had frozen, then slowly sat back down. Lost, Dante had repeated, almost amused. In my private game room. I didn't know it was private. The door wasn't locked. It should have been. He'd glanced at someone standing in the shadows. A mountain of a man in a black suit. Marco. Who was supposed to secure this floor? I'll handle it, boss. Marco's voice had been like gravel in a cement mixer. I'd felt my knees start to shake. This was bad. This was the kind of bad that ended with me losing my job or worse. Sarah would kill me. I couldn't afford to lose this gig. "Please," I'd said, hating how small my voice sounded. "I'll leave. I won't say anything. I didn't see anything." Dante had studied me for a long moment. In the low amber light of the room, his face had been all sharp angles and shadows, dangerous and beautiful in the way a knife blade catches the light. "You're shaking," he'd observed. "I'm cold." A lie. I'd been terrified. "Luca." He'd gestured to another man. "Get her a coat." "That's not necessary." "I insist." When Luca had draped a cashmere coat over my shoulders, I'd nearly gasped. It was the softest thing I'd ever touched. It smelled like cedar and wealth. "Thank you," I'd whispered. "I should really join us." I'd blinked. "What, for a drink?" He'd poured amber liquid from a crystal decanter into a glass. "You've interrupted a very important game. The least you can do is share a toast." Every instinct had screamed at me to run. But something in his tone had made it clear that running wasn't an option. Not really, so I'd walked forward on trembling legs and accepted the glass. The whiskey had burned going down, but I'd managed not to cough. "Two unexpected interruptions," Dante had said, raising his own glass. The other men had echoed the toast, but their eyes on me had been calculating. Predatory. I'd downed the whiskey in one burning gulp and set the glass down with shaking hands. "Thank you for the drink. I really need to get back. Do you believe in fate, Mia?" The question had caught me off guard. I don't know." "I do." He'd stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. "I believe certain meetings are orchestrated by forces beyond our control." He'd walked toward me, and I'd forced myself not to step back. Up close, he was taller than I'd expected. Broader. The scar on his face had been more prominent, a story I'd never be brave enough to ask about. "You have kind eyes," he'd said quietly. "That's rare in my world." Before I could respond, the door had burst open. A young man, barely more than a boy, had stumbled in, his face bloody, his designer shirt torn. "Mr. Moretti." The boy had collapsed to his knees. "Please, I can explain. The money, I was going to pay it back, I swear." The temperature in the room had dropped 20 degrees. Dante hadn't moved, hadn't even looked at the boy. His eyes had stayed locked on mine as he'd said, very quietly, "Marco, take our guest to the car. Make sure he understands the terms of our previous agreement." "No, please." The boy had grabbed at Dante's legs. "My sister, she needs the surgery. That's why I took it. I was desperate." I'd watched Dante's jaw tighten. Just a fraction, but I'd seen it. "How much does she need?" His voice had been flat, emotionless. 50,000. "But I can get it. I just need more time. The surgery is covered. Marco will arrange it." Dante had finally looked down at the boy. "But the money you stole from my collection, that debt remains. And debts in my world are always paid, one way or another." The boy had been dragged out, still sobbing gratitude and apologies. And I'd stood there, frozen, understanding for the first time exactly what kind of man Dante Moretti was. Generous and cruel, merciful and merciless, a walking contradiction wrapped in an expensive suit. "I should go," I'd whispered. "Not yet." He'd gestured to Marco. "Have Alessandro bring the car around. I'll escort Miss Chen home personally." "That's really not necessary. I insist. It's late. This neighborhood isn't safe for a young woman alone." The irony hadn't been lost on me. The most dangerous thing in that neighborhood was probably him. But I'd been too afraid to argue, too aware that in his world, refusal wasn't an option. That's how I'd ended up in this SUV, with its bulletproof glass and leather seats that probably cost more than my car. Marco had driven us in silence while Dante made phone calls in Italian, his voice a low rumble that I'd felt more than heard. I'd pressed myself against the door, trying to disappear into the upholstery, and then the police had appeared, sirens wailing, lights flashing, blocking every exit. Now his hand still circled my wrist, warm and firm and utterly in control. "Why are they stopping us?" I asked. my voice barely audible over the rain, because someone made a very stupid mistake. He released my wrist and pressed a button on the door panel. The partition between us and Marco lowered. How many? 8 units, SWAT positioning on the rooftop across the street. Marco's voice was calm, like this was just another Tuesday. They're setting up spike strips on the north exit. Do they have a warrant? Unknown, boss. Dante's fingers drummed once on his knee. A tiny gesture that somehow felt monumental. Call Vincent. Tell him to have our lawyers at the precinct in 15 minutes. He paused. And find out who leaked our route. The partition rose back up. I was going to be sick. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. This is because of me. Because I interrupted your meeting. They think nothing about you. His voice was gentle now, almost kind. This has nothing to do with you, Mia. Then why won't you let me get out? I'm nobody. You're with me. That makes you somebody. He shifted slightly, angling his body toward mine. The moment you step out of this car, you become a witness. They'll use you to get to me. Do you understand? I didn't. Not really. But I nodded anyway. A voice crackled through a megaphone outside. This is the NYPD. Exit the vehicle with your hands visible. You have 30 seconds to comply. My heart was going to explode. I could feel it hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. Dante reached into his jacket and I flinched. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out his phone. He typed something quickly, then set it on the seat between us. Listen to me very carefully, he said. When we exit this vehicle, stay close to me. Don't speak to anyone. Don't answer any questions. If they separate us, ask for a lawyer immediately. Say nothing else. Can you do that? Tears burned my eyes. I don't understand what's happening. I know. And for just a second, something soft flickered across his face. Something almost human. But I need you to trust me. I don't even know you. No. He reached out and caught a tear with his thumb before it could fall. The gesture was so unexpected, so intimate that I froze. But I'm the only thing standing between you and a very long night in an interrogation room. The megaphone crackled again. This is your final warning. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and the corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile. More like satisfaction. It's done, he murmured. What's done? He buttoned his jacket and reached for the door handle. Stay close to me, Mia, and whatever happens, remember. You're under my protection now. The door opened, and the rain rushed in along with the shouting and the lights and the overwhelming sense that my entire life had just tilted off its axis. And as Dante Moretti stepped out into the storm, his hand extended back toward me in silent command, I realized with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. I took his hand, and the world exploded into chaos. The rain soaked through my thin work shirt in seconds. I gasped as the cold hit me, but Dante's hand tightened around mine, steady and unyielding. He didn't flinch as the water plastered his expensive suit to his body. Didn't even blink when the megaphone screeched another command. Hands where we can see them. Dante released my hand only to wrap his arm around my waist, pulling me against his side. His body was a wall of heat despite the rain, solid and immovable. Keep your hands visible, he murmured into my ear, and breathe. You're holding your breath. I hadn't even realized. I exhaled shakily, my hands rising slowly beside my head. The police closed in like a pack of wolves. At least a dozen officers, maybe more, their weapons trained on us with terrifying precision. The red dots of laser sights danced across Dante's chest, and I felt bile rise in my throat. They were going to shoot him. Right here, with me standing next to him. On the ground. Now. I don't think so. Dante's voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. Not loud, not aggressive, just certain. I have diplomatic immunity, and you're violating about 6 different protocols right now. One of the officers stepped forward, older than the others, with silver at his temples and hard lines around his mouth. Mr. Moretti, we have a warrant for your arrest in connection with... You have nothing. Dante's tone was almost bored. Check your phone, Detective Morrison. I believe your captain is trying to reach you. Morrison's jaw tightened, but he pulled out his phone. Even from where I stood, I could see his face drain of color as he read whatever message had appeared. The silence stretched. Rain drummed. My heart hammered. Finally, Morrison lowered his weapon. "Stand down." "Sir?" One of the younger officers looked confused. I said, "Stand down." Morrison's voice was sharp with barely controlled fury. He shoved his phone back in his pocket and stalked toward us, stopping just outside the circle of red laser dots. "You're a real son of a bitch, you know that?" Dante's smile was cold enough to freeze the rain. "I've been called worse. This isn't over. It never is." Dante's arm tightened around my waist. "Now, if you're finished threatening innocent civilians in the rain, I'd like to take Miss Chen home. She's had a very long night, and I'd hate for her to catch pneumonia because you couldn't verify a warrant before mobilizing half the department." Morrison's eyes shifted to me for the first time. They were sharp, calculating, and I felt stripped bare under his gaze. "Who are you?" My mouth opened, but no sound came out. "She's nobody," Dante said smoothly. "Wrong place, wrong time. You know how it goes, Detective. I know exactly how it goes with you, Moretti." Morrison stepped closer, ignoring the renewed tension from his officers. "You make people disappear. You make evidence disappear. You make problems disappear." His eyes bore into mine. "Miss, if this man is holding you against your will..." "She came willingly." Dante's voice dropped several degrees. "Didn't you, Mia?" Every eye turned to me. The rain felt like ice now, needles against my skin. I could feel Dante's fingers pressing into my hip. A silent reminder. A warning. A promise. Don't speak, ask for a lawyer, say nothing else. But Morrison's eyes held something that Dante's didn't. Concern. Real, human concern. "Miss?" Morrison prompted. "Are you here of your own free will?" The truth was complicated. I was here because I'd gotten lost, because I'd stumbled into a room I shouldn't have entered. Because Dante Moretti had insisted on driving me home, and something in his voice had made refusal feel impossible, but I wasn't being held hostage. Was I? My voice cracked. "I just want to go home. Then let me take you." Morrison extended his hand. "My officers will escort you safely." No, the word came out stronger than I'd intended. I surprised myself. "Thank you, but I'm fine." Morrison's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake." Maybe I was, but some instinct I couldn't name made me step closer to Dante instead of away. His arm loosened slightly, and I felt him exhale. Relief? Satisfaction? I couldn't tell. "Are we done here, Detective?" Dante's tone was all business now. "Or should I have my lawyers file a harassment complaint to add to the wrongful detention suit?" Morrison stared at him for a long moment, then spat into a puddle. "Get out of here, both of you." Dante didn't need to be told twice. He guided me back toward the SUV, his hand never leaving my waist. Marco had already opened the door, his expression blank, but his eyes scanning every officer, every shadow, every potential threat. I climbed in on shaking legs. Dante slid in beside me, and the door closed with a heavy, final thunk. The silence inside the car was deafening. Marco pulled away slowly, carefully, threading through the police vehicles that were already dispersing. I watched through the rain-streaked window as Morrison stood in the middle of the street, watching us go. His hands clenched at his sides. "You're shivering." I jumped at Dante's voice. He'd already shrugged out of his soaked jacket and was reaching for something in a compartment beneath the seat. "Here." He draped a soft blanket around my shoulders. Cashmere, probably. Everything in his world was expensive and soft and wrong for someone like me. "What just happened?" I whispered. "You were very brave." He poured something amber from a built-in bar into a crystal glass. "Drink this. It'll help with the shock." I took the glass with trembling hands but didn't drink. "You said you had diplomatic immunity." "I said a lot of things. Is it true?" His smile was enigmatic. "Does it matter?" "Yes." The word burst out of me, sharp with frustration and fear and adrenaline. "It matters. I was almost arrested. I don't even know what for." "You weren't going to be arrested." He settled back into his seat, utterly calm, like we hadn't just been surrounded by armed police. "You were going to be used. There's a difference." "Used for what?" To hurt me. I stared at him. Water dripped from his hair onto his forehead, and in the dim light of the car, he looked younger than I'd thought, 35 maybe, 40 at most. The scar on his face was a pale line now, almost silver. Why would they think I could hurt you? I'm nobody. You said so yourself. I lied. The admission hung between us like smoke. Why? He turned to look at me fully, and the intensity in his dark eyes made my breath catch. Because the moment Morrison saw you with me, you stopped being nobody. You became a vulnerability, a weakness. And in my world, Mia, weaknesses are exploited. I'm not your weakness. I don't even know you. Not yet. He reached out and tucked a strand of wet hair behind my ear. The gesture was so casual, so intimate that I froze. But you will. The car turned onto a quieter street. The rain was lessening now, fading to a drizzle that blurred the streetlights into halos of gold. Where are we going? I asked. I'm taking you home. Like I promised. You can just drop me at the subway. Absolutely not. His tone left no room for argument. It's 3 a.m. You're soaking wet. And half of Morrison's department probably has your description by now. Panic fluttered in my chest. Why would they? Because they'll want to question you, about me, about what you saw tonight. He leaned forward and pressed a button. Marco, take the long way. Make sure we're not followed. Yes, boss. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders. I didn't see anything. I told you. I was just lost. You saw a private meeting. You saw a debtor beg for mercy. You saw me in a vulnerable position. His eyes never left mine. That's more than most people see and live to talk about. The words should have terrified me. They did terrify me. But there was something else underneath the fear. Something I couldn't name. Are you going to kill me? The question came out smaller than I'd intended. Childish, almost. Dante's expression shifted. For just a moment, something that might have been pain crossed his face. No, Mia. I'm not going to kill you. Then what are you going to do with me? I'm going to make sure you're safe. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Plain white, embossed with a phone number. Nothing else. If anyone contacts you about tonight, police, reporters, anyone, you call this number immediately. Don't speak to them. Don't answer their questions. Just call. I took the card with numb fingers. I don't understand what's happening. I know. His voice was gentle again, that unexpected softness that made him seem almost human. And I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this. Truly, caught in the middle of what? He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Finally, he said, There's a war coming. A war I didn't start, but one I intend to finish. And tonight, you accidentally walked onto the battlefield. My stomach dropped. A war? Like, with guns? Among other things. Oh my God. I pressed my hands to my face. Oh my God. I need to call my roommate. She's probably worried sick. I was supposed to be home hours ago. Already taken care of. He nodded to Marco. I had someone call the restaurant and explain you'd be working late on a private event. Your roommate received a text from your phone saying you'd be home tomorrow. I stared at him. You have my phone? It was in your apron pocket. You left your apron in the service elevator when you ran into my meeting. He produced my battered phone from his pocket and handed it to me. The passcode is 0825. Your birthday, if I'm not mistaken. Cold washed over me. How do you know my birthday? I know a lot of things, Mia. I swallowed hard. That's terrifying. It's necessary. He settled back into his seat, his eyes never leaving my face. You're under my protection now, which means I need to know everything about you. Who you talk to, where you go, who might try to use you against me. I didn't ask for your protection, no. But you have it anyway. His voice was final, absolute. The moment you walked into that room, you became mine to protect, whether you wanted or not. The possessiveness in his tone sent chills down my spine. Not entirely from fear. I have a life, I said weakly. A job. Bills to pay. I can't just... Your job at the Augustine has been secured. with a significant raise. He spoke over my protests. Your rent is paid through the end of the year. The medical debt from your pneumonia has been cleared. And starting tomorrow, Marco will be your driver. I felt like I was drowning. You can't do that. You can't just take over my life. I'm not taking it over. I'm protecting it. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. Do you know what would happen if Morrison got his hands on you? If he convinced you to testify against me? I don't know anything to testify about. You know I was in that room. You know who else was there. You know about the boy. His jaw tightened. That's enough to build a case, or to get you killed by people who don't want that case built. The car stopped. I looked out the window and recognized my street. The Chinese restaurant below my apartment was dark, closed for the night. How did you know where I live? I know everything about you, Mia Chen. He reached across and opened my door. Everything. I should have run. Should have scrambled out of that car and never looked back. But I didn't. Why? I whispered. Why do you care what happens to me? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he reached out and touched my face, his thumb tracing the line of my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Because when you walked into that room tonight, you looked at me like I was just a man, not a monster, not a king, just a man. His eyes searched mine. No one has looked at me like that in a very long time. My heart was doing something strange in my chest. Fluttering. Racing. I should go. I managed. Yes, you should. But he didn't move his hand. Neither did I. The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility and danger and something else I was too afraid to name. Finally, Marco cleared his throat. Boss, we have company. Dante's hand dropped immediately. His entire demeanor shifted, hardening back into that impenetrable wall of control. How many? 2 cars, unmarked, been following us since we left Morrison. Dante's jaw clenched. He looked at me, and something that might have been regret flickered in his eyes. Change of plans. You're coming with me. What? No, it's not safe for you here. Not tonight. He was already pulling out his phone, typing rapidly. They'll be watching your apartment, waiting to see if I drop you off alone. Then I'll call the police. The police are the ones watching Mia. His voice was sharp now, urgent. Morrison doesn't give up that easily. He'll have his people stationed here all night, waiting to grab you the moment I leave. Fear spiked through me. So what am I supposed to do? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he made a decision I could see crystallize in his eyes. You're staying with me. Just for tonight. Until I can secure your apartment and make sure you're safe. I can't just... You can, and you will. His tone left no room for argument. Marco, take us home. The car pulled away from my building, and I watched my apartment disappear into the darkness behind us. I was trapped. Completely. Utterly trapped. And the most terrifying part was the tiny voice in the back of my mind whispering that maybe, just maybe, I didn't entirely want to escape. Home turned out to be a penthouse in a building I'd only ever seen from the outside. One of those glass and steel towers that pierced the Manhattan skyline like a needle. The kind of place where doormen wore white gloves and knew better than to ask questions. Marco pulled into an underground garage that required 3 different security checkpoints. Each guard nodded at Dante with a deference that bordered on fear. No one looked at me. This way. Dante's hand found the small of my back as we walked toward a private elevator. His touch was light but possessive, a constant reminder that I was under his control now. The elevator was all mirrors and gold accents. I caught my reflection and barely recognized myself, hair plastered to my skull, mascara smudged beneath my eyes, work shirt clinging to my body like a second skin. I looked like a drowned rat. Next to me, Dante looked like he'd just stepped off a magazine cover, even soaking wet. Water dripped from his hair onto the collar of his white shirt, now transparent enough to show the defined muscles beneath. I forced myself to look away. The elevator climbed, and climbed, and climbed. How high up are we going? I asked, just to break the silence. Top floor. Of course. Where else would a man like Dante Moretti live? The doors opened directly into his apartment. No hallway, no shared space. just straight into a living room that was bigger than my entire building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, rain still streaking down the glass in rivulets that caught the lights below. The furniture was all clean lines and dark leather, expensive but somehow cold. Like a showroom. Like no one actually lived here. You're dripping on my floor. I looked down and saw the puddle forming around my sneakers. Sorry, Bathroom is through there. He gestured to a hallway. Take a shower. Warm up. I'll have some dry clothes brought up. Brought up from where? A slight smile. I have resources. He disappeared down another hallway, already pulling his phone from his pocket and speaking in rapid Italian. I stood there for a moment, uncertain, before my shivering drove me toward the bathroom. If the living room was impressive, the bathroom was obscene. Marble everywhere, floors, walls, countertops. A shower that could fit 6 people. A bathtub that looked like it belonged in a Roman villa. I caught sight of myself in the mirror and winced. I looked even worse than I'd thought. The shower had 17 different settings. I chose the one that seemed most normal and stood under water so hot it almost hurt, letting it chase away the cold that had settled into my bones. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. 24 hours ago, my biggest worry had been whether I could pick up enough shifts to make rent. Now I was in a mobster's penthouse, hiding from the police, caught in the middle of something I didn't understand. I pressed my forehead against the marble tiles and tried not to cry. A knock on the door made me jump. There's clothes outside the door, Dante's voice called. And food in the kitchen when you're ready. I waited until I heard his footsteps retreat before cracking the door open. Sure enough, there was a neat stack of clothing on a bench just outside. Soft gray sweatpants, a black t-shirt that would probably swallow me whole, and, I felt my face heat, a set of expensive-looking underwear, tags still on, in exactly my size. How did he know my size? I know everything about you, Mia-chan. Everything. His words echoed in my mind as I dried off and dressed. The clothes smelled like expensive detergent and something else. Cedar, maybe. They were too big, but clean and warm and soft against my skin. When I emerged from the bathroom, I followed the sound of movement to the kitchen. It was all stainless steel and black granite, professional-grade everything. Dante stood at the stove, his back to me, now wearing dry clothes, black pants and a charcoal sweater that stretched across his shoulders. He was cooking. The sight was so incongruous that I stopped in the doorway and stared. You cook? He glanced over his shoulder, and something flickered in his eyes when he saw me in his clothes. I have many talents. Sit. It wasn't a suggestion. I slid onto one of the bar stools and watched as he plated what looked like pasta aglio e olio. Simple, elegant, nothing like the elaborate dishes at the Augustine. He set a plate in front of me, along with a glass of red wine that probably cost more than my security deposit. Eat. I'm not hungry. You're in shock. You need food. He sat across from me with his own plate, but I noticed he didn't eat, just watched me with those dark, unreadable eyes. I picked up the fork with trembling hands and took a small bite. It was perfect. Garlic and olive oil, and just enough heat from red pepper flakes. My stomach, despite everything, rumbled in appreciation. It's good, I admitted quietly. My mother's recipe. He swirled wine in his glass but didn't drink. She believed that no matter how bad things got, a good meal could make them bearable. It was the first personal thing he'd shared. I looked up, surprised. Is she dead? 10 years now. No emotion in his voice, just fact. Cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. She lived well, died surrounded by family. He finally took a sip of wine. That's more than most people in my world get. The casual way he spoke about death made my stomach turn. I set down my fork. What is your world exactly? What do you do? You already know what I do, Mia. I know what people say. I don't know what's true. He studied me for a long moment. Would it change anything if you knew? I don't know, I said honestly. Then why ask? Because I'm sitting in your apartment at 4 a.m. wearing your clothes and I don't even know if you're going to let me leave. The words hung between us, sharp and honest. Dante set down his wine glass very carefully. You're not a prisoner. Then I can go? No. I let out a bitter laugh. That's the definition of a prisoner. No. A prisoner is someone being held against their will. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. You're someone being protected against her better judgment. There's a difference. Semantics. Survival. His voice hardened. Morrison is probably sitting outside your apartment right now, waiting for you to come home. The moment you do, he'll have you in an interrogation room so fast your head will spin. Is that what you want? No, but... Or maybe it won't be Morrison. Maybe it'll be someone from the Volkov family, wondering why you were in my private meeting, wondering what you heard, wondering if you're a loose end that needs to be tied up. He tilted his head. Still want to leave? My mouth went dry. Who are the Volkovs? People you don't want to meet. He stood and walked to the windows, looking out over the city. There are 5 families that run this city, Mia. 5 organizations with their hands in everything from construction to politics to the food on your table. My family is one of them. The Volkovs are another. And right now, they're trying very hard to destroy us. I wrapped my arms around myself. Why? Because we're in their way. Because my father took something from them 20 years ago, and they've been waiting for the right moment to take it back. He turned to face me. That boy you saw tonight, the one who stole from me, his sister is engaged to Alexei Volkov's son. The whole thing was a setup. Get the boy in debt to me, then use his desperation to plant someone close to my organization. How do you know that? Because I'm not stupid. His smile was cold. And because I had the boy's phone checked. Text messages to Volkov's people, pictures of my office, details about my security. He paused. He'll be dealt with. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. What does that mean? Dealt with? It means he made a choice, and now he lives with the consequences. You're going to kill him. It wasn't a question. I'm going to send a message. He crossed back to the counter, refilling his wine glass. That's how this world works, Mia. You show weakness, you die. You show mercy, you die. You let betrayal go unpunished. And soon everyone thinks they can betray you. That's insane. That's reality. He took a long drink. You live in a fantasy world where police protect you and justice prevails. I live in the real world where power is the only currency that matters. I stood up, anger replacing fear. The real world. You live in a penthouse that costs more than most people make in a lifetime. You have drivers and guards, and probably a dozen people ready to kill for you. Don't talk to me about the real world. His eyes flashed dangerously. You think this is luxury? This is a cage, Mia. Every window is bulletproof. Every door is reinforced. I have 17 cameras monitoring every angle of this apartment because last year someone tried to plant a bomb in my bedroom. He moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in 5 years. I can't go to a restaurant without checking for exits. I can't trust anyone except the 5 people who've been with me since childhood. That's my real world. His face was inches from mine now, and I could see the exhaustion beneath his controlled exterior, the lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Then why do it? I whispered. Why live like this? Because it's what I was born to do. Some of the fire left his voice, because my father built this empire with blood and sacrifice, and I won't let it fall, because hundreds of people depend on me for their livelihoods, their safety, their families. He reached out and touched my face again. That same gentle gesture that felt so wrong, coming from someone so dangerous. And because if I don't do it, someone worse will. I should have pulled away, should have been repulsed, but I wasn't. You're going to kill that boy, I said softly. Aren't you? No. He surprised me. I'm going to let him go, with a message to deliver to the Volkovs. What message? That I know what they're planning, that I'm 3 steps ahead, and that the next person they send into my territory won't be so lucky. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Does that make me a monster? I don't know what it makes you. That's the most honest answer I've heard all night. He dropped his hand and stepped back. You should get some sleep. The guest room is down the hall, second door on the left. What about you? I have calls to make, plans to finalize. He was already pulling out his phone. Marco will be outside your door if you need anything. You're having me guarded in my sleep? I'm having you protected in my home. There's a difference. There he went again with the semantics. I started toward the hallway, then stopped. Dante? He looked up from his phone, one eyebrow raised. Thank you. For the food, and the clothes, and not killing me, I guess. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. The night is young, Mia. I should have been terrified by the joke. Instead, I found myself almost smiling back. The guest room was as impersonal as the rest of the apartment. Expensive furniture, high thread count sheets, artwork that probably cost more than my car. But there was a lock on the door which I immediately engaged. I lay in the darkness, listening to the muffled sound of Dante's voice through the walls. He was speaking Italian again, his tone clipped and authoritative. Making plans, sending messages. Being the man that everyone feared. My phone buzzed. I'd plugged it in to charge, and now I saw a flood of messages from Sarah. Where are you? The restaurant said you're working late, but you're not answering Mia. I'm getting worried. If you don't text me back in an hour, I'm calling the police. And then, 2 hours ago, just got your text. Okay, good. But call me tomorrow, you're worrying me. I stared at the message I supposedly sent. Working a private event, will be home tomorrow. Don't wait up. It was even in my texting style, casual, brief, exactly what I would have sent. He really had thought of everything. I typed out a quick response to Sarah. I'm fine. Long story. We'll explain tomorrow. Promise. Her response was immediate. You better. And it better be good. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. What was I doing here? Why hadn't I insisted Morrison take me away when I had the chance? Why had I defended Dante, this man I didn't know, this criminal who casually talked about sending messages with violence? Because when he looked at me, I didn't feel invisible. Because when he touched my face, I felt seen. Because despite everything, the danger, the fear, the absolute insanity of this situation, some part of me wanted to stay, and that terrified me more than anything else. A soft knock on the door made me sit up. Mia? Dante's voice was quiet. Are you awake? I should have pretended to be asleep. Instead, I found myself walking to the door and unlocking it. He stood in the hallway, backlit by the soft lighting, still holding his phone. He looked tired. Truly tired. In a way I hadn't seen before. Is everything okay? I asked. There's been a development. He ran a hand through his hair. The Volkovs know you were in the car with me tonight. They're asking questions. My heart dropped. What kind of questions? Who you are. What you mean to me. Why I'd risk police attention to keep you with me. His eyes met mine. I need to make a decision, and I need to make it now. What decision? Whether to cut you loose, give you money, set you up somewhere far away from here where they can't find you, or... He trailed off. Or what? He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne again. Bergamot and danger. Or make it very clear that you're under my protection. That anyone who touches you, who threatens you, who even looks at you wrong, will answer to me personally. And what does that mean for me? It means you become part of my world. Officially. It means guards and security and people watching your every move. It means you can't go back to your old life, your old job, your old friends. He paused. It means you become mine, Mia. In every way that matters. The possessiveness in his tone should have scared me. It did scare me, but it also sent a thrill through me that I didn't want to examine too closely. Why? I whispered. Why would you do that for someone you just met? He reached out and cupped my face in both hands, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that stole my breath. Because when I saw you in that room tonight, something shifted. Something I can't explain and don't entirely understand. But I know with absolute certainty that if I let you walk away, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. His thumb brushed my lower lip. So tell me, Mia, what do you want? Freedom or protection? Anonymity or safety? A normal life or you? I finished. Or me. The choice hung between us, heavy with implications I couldn't fully grasp. Run or stay, safety or danger, the known or the unknown. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I made a choice that would change everything. I want to stay. The words had barely left my lips when Dante's mouth crashed against mine. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative. It was hunger and possession, and something darker that I felt all the way to my bones. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head exactly where he wanted it, and I gasped against his mouth. He took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but feel. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his eyes closed. "You have no idea what you've just agreed to," he murmured. "Then show me." His eyes opened, dark and dangerous and full of promise. "Careful what you wish for, Mia." But he didn't kiss me again. Instead, he stepped back, putting distance between us with visible effort. "Not like this. Not when you're scared and exhausted and don't fully understand what you're choosing." His jaw tightened. "When I take you, it will be because you want me, not because you're afraid of the alternative." Heat flooded through me at his words. "When, not if. I should let you sleep," he continued, already backing toward the door. "Tomorrow everything changes. You'll need your strength. Wait." I caught his arm. "What happens tomorrow?" A slow, dangerous smile. "Tomorrow, I introduce you to my world, and I make sure everyone in it knows exactly who you belong to." He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut softly behind him. I stood there for a long moment, my fingers pressed to my lips, still feeling the ghost of his kiss. What had I done? I must have slept, because I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. Dante. The police. The choice I'd made. I want to stay. I groaned and pulled the pillow over my face. A knock on the door made me sit up. "Yes?" "Miss Chen?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Mr. Moretti asked me to bring you breakfast and some clothes. May I come in?" I scrambled out of bed, suddenly aware that I was wearing Dante's oversized t-shirt and nothing else. Just a second." I found the sweatpants pooled on the floor where I'd kicked them off in my sleep and yanked them on before opening the door. A woman in her 50s stood there, elegantly dressed in a black suit, holding a garment bag and a tray. She had kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "I'm Elena. I manage Mr. Moretti's household." She swept into the room like she owned it, setting the tray on a side table and hanging the garment bag in the closet. "He's asked me to help you get settled." "Settled?" I echoed. "You'll be staying here for the foreseeable future. We'll need to arrange for your belongings to be moved from your apartment, but in the meantime, I've brought some essentials." She gestured to the garment bag. "Clothes in your size." Mr. Moretti was very specific about getting everything right. Of course he was. "I can't just move in here," I protested weakly. Elena's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Moretti doesn't usually bring guests to his home. The fact that you're here at all means you're important to him. And what's important to him is important to all of us." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Now." Elena poured coffee from a silver carafe. "Eat your breakfast. Mr. Moretti has meetings this morning, but he's asked that you be ready by noon. You have an appointment." "An appointment for what?" "He'll explain." She smiled mysteriously. "Everything you need is in the bathroom. If you require anything else, just press the intercom button by the bed." She swept out as efficiently as she'd entered, leaving me alone with more questions than answers. The breakfast was simple but perfect. Fresh fruit, croissants, scrambled eggs. I ate mechanically, trying to process everything. The clothes Elena had brought were beautiful. Designer labels I recognized from magazine spreads. A soft cream sweater, dark jeans that fit like they'd been tailored for me, leather boots that probably cost more than a month's rent. When I was dressed, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. I looked expensive, put together, like someone who belonged in Dante's world. The illusion shattered when I tried to style my hair and realized I had no products, no tools, nothing familiar. Another knock. Elena again, this time with a makeup artist and hairstylist in tow. "Mr. Moretti thought you might need assistance," she said, as if this were completely normal. An hour later, I looked like someone from a magazine. My hair fell in soft waves. My makeup was subtle but perfect. I looked beautiful in a way I'd never achieved on my own. I also looked like a doll, a pretty thing dressed up for display. "He's ready for you," Elena said, appearing right on time. "This way." She led me through the apartment to a room I hadn't seen before, an office, all dark wood and leather, with windows overlooking the city. Dante sat behind a massive desk, speaking on the phone in Italian. He looked up when I entered, and whatever he was saying died mid-sentence. His eyes traveled over me, slow and deliberate, and I felt heat creep up my neck. He said something sharp into the phone and hung up without waiting for a response. "You look..." He stood, coming around the desk. "Perfect. I look like someone else. You look like yourself, just elevated." He tilted his head, studying me. "How do you feel?" "Like a fraud." A slight smile. "You'll get used to it." "Will I?" Instead of answering, he held out his hand. "Come. We're going to be late." "Late for what?" "You'll see." Marco was waiting in the garage with the SUV, but this time there was another vehicle as well, a second SUV, black and intimidating, with two men in suits standing beside it. "Security," Dante explained, seeing my expression. "From now on, when you leave this building, they'll be with us. That's excessive. That's necessary." His tone left no room for argument. The drive took us to a part of the city I rarely visited, the Diamond District, where storefronts glittered with wealth and security guards stood at every door. Dante led me into a building that looked more like a bank than a jewelry store. The moment we entered, a man in an impeccable suit rushed forward. "Mr. Moretti, right on time. Everything is prepared as you requested. Excellent. This way, Mia." He guided me into a private room where jewelry was laid out on black velvet. Diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, more wealth than I'd ever seen in one place. "What is this?" I whispered. "A gift." He picked up a necklace, delicate platinum chain with a pendant that caught the light. "From me to you. I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not a gift for you," he interrupted quietly. "It's a message. To everyone who sees you wearing it, that you're mine, that you're protected." He held it up. "May I?" I should have said no. Should have run out of that room and kept running. Instead, I turned around and lifted my hair. His fingers were warm against my neck as he fastened the clasp. The pendant settled just above my collarbone, cool and substantial. "Look." He turned me toward a mirror. The woman looking back at me was a stranger. Beautiful, polished, wearing a necklace that probably cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. "It's a GPS tracker," Dante said casually. "Custom made. If anything happens, if anyone tries to take you, I'll know exactly where you are within seconds." I touched the pendant, feeling the weight of it. "You're tracking me. I'm protecting you." He met my eyes in the mirror. There's a difference. Those words again, always drawing lines between protection and control, between care and possession. "What if I don't want to wear it? Then you don't have to." He stepped back, giving me space. "But understand that without it, I can't guarantee your safety. And if the Volkovs make a move, if Morrison decides to pick you up for questioning, if anything happens, I might not get to you in time." It was a choice that wasn't really a choice. I took a deep breath and met his eyes in the mirror. "Okay." Something like relief crossed his face. "There's more." He gestured, and the jeweler brought forward a tray of rings. My heart stopped. "Dante." "Not what you think," he said quickly. "But close." He selected a ring, platinum band with a single diamond. "This is a promise, that while you're under my protection, no one touches you. No one threatens you. No one even looks at you wrong." He took my left hand. "It goes on this finger. That's... People will think... Let them think what they want. The important part is that they know you're taken, that you're claimed." His eyes held mine. "That you're mine." There was that word again. Mine. The ring slid onto my finger like it was made for me. Probably was, knowing Dante's attention to detail. "There's one more thing." He nodded to the jeweler who produced a small box. Inside was a phone. Sleek, expensive, nothing like my battered old device. Your new phone. It has one number programmed in, mine. If anything happens, you call me. Not the police, not your friends. Me. I stared at the phone. What about my old number? My contacts? Already transferred. But the number is untraceable. No one has it except the people I approve. You're cutting me off from my life. I'm giving you a new one. He closed the box and pressed it into my hands. A safer one. We left the jewelry store with me wearing a fortune in diamonds and platinum, carrying a phone that was essentially a leash. The security team flanked us as we walked to the SUV, their eyes constantly scanning the street. Where are we going now? I asked as Marco pulled into traffic. Lunch. I have some people I want you to meet. What people? My family. The restaurant was one I'd never heard of. Probably because it didn't advertise. You had to know about it to find it. The door was unmarked, the windows tinted. But the moment we walked in, I felt the shift. Everyone stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Eyes turned toward us, toward Dante, with a mixture of respect and fear, and then toward me, with open curiosity. Dante's hand found my waist again, that possessive touch I was beginning to recognize. Relax, he murmured. You're with me. No one will touch you. A private room in the back, 5 people waiting, 3 men and 2 women, all dressed in expensive casual wear that still somehow screamed wealth. Everyone, Dante said, his voice carrying authority. This is Mia Chen. She's under my personal protection. What's mine is hers. Anyone who threatens her answers to me directly. The silence was absolute. Then, one of the women, stunning, probably 40, with sharp eyes and sharper cheekbones, stood and approached me. She looked me up and down with open assessment. So, you're the girl who walked into the dragon's den. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm Valentina, Dante's cousin. Nice to meet you, I managed. We'll see, she turned to Dante. You sure about this? She's not exactly our usual type. I'm sure. His tone brooked no argument. Mia stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. Valentina raised an eyebrow, but said nothing more. She returned to her seat, and the others began to introduce themselves. Luca, Dante's second in command, the one who'd given me the coat last night. Giovanni, his accountant, apparently. Sharp suit, sharper mind. Marco, I already knew. He nodded at me from his position by the door. And Isabella, another cousin, younger than Valentina, with kind eyes and a warm smile. Don't mind Val, Isabella whispered to me. She's protective, but she'll warm up once she sees you're not going anywhere. The meal was surreal. They talked business around me like I wasn't there. Shipments, territories, problems that needed handling. I picked at my food, hyper-aware of the ring on my finger, the necklace at my throat, the way Dante's hand kept finding mine under the table. Halfway through the meal, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. Excuse me. He stood, pressing a kiss to the top of my head, a gesture so casual and intimate that it shocked me. Isabella, keep her company. He stepped out, and immediately the atmosphere in the room shifted. Valentina leaned forward. So, how much did he pay you? Excuse me? To play the girlfriend, to wear his ring and bat your eyelashes and make the Volkovs think he's distracted. She tilted her head. How much? He didn't. She's not playing. Isabella cut in sharply. Look at her, Val. Does she look like she knows what she's gotten into? Exactly my point. Valentina's eyes narrowed. She's a liability, a civilian, someone the Volkovs can use against him. Or someone worth protecting, Luca said quietly. Dante doesn't make decisions lightly. If he says she stays, she stays. And when the Volkovs grab her, when they use her to get to him, what then? Valentina's voice rose slightly. We've lost people before because of enough. Dante's voice cut through the room like a whip. He stood in the doorway, his expression thunderous. Another word about Mia, and we'll have a very different conversation. Valentina fell silent, but her eyes remained hard. Dante returned to his seat, his hand immediately finding mine again. "We're leaving. But we haven't finished. Now." Something in his tone made everyone else stand as well. Whatever that phone call had been, it changed everything. In the SUV, Dante was silent, his jaw clenched, his knuckles white where he gripped his phone. "What happened?" I asked quietly. The Volkovs made their move. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. They went after Sarah. My blood turned to ice. "What?" "Your roommate. They grabbed her an hour ago. Left a message saying if I want her back alive, I need to deliver you to them by midnight." The world tilted. Oh my God. "Oh my God. This is my fault." "This is the Volkov's fault," he corrected sharply. "But I'm going to fix it." "How?" His smile was cold and terrible. "By giving them exactly what they want." "Absolutely not." I was already reaching for the door handle, panic clawing at my throat. "You're not using me as bait. I won't let Sarah die because of me." Dante's hand caught my wrist, firm but not painful. "Listen to me. The Volkovs don't want you dead. They want leverage. They want to prove they can get to me through you." "Then let them have me. Let me trade myself for Sarah." "And then what?" His eyes bored into mine. "They'll kill you both. You think they'll just let you walk away after using you against me? After making me look weak?" He pulled me closer. "No one makes me look weak and lives, Mia. No one." My hands were shaking. "She's innocent. She has nothing to do with this, I know." His voice softened fractionally. "Which is why we're going to get her back, but not by handing you over like a sacrificial lamb." "Then how?" He released my wrist and pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "Marco, change of plans. Take us to the warehouse on Pier 47. "Boss, that's Volkov territory." "I know where it is." Dante's tone was ice. "Do it." The drive took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Dante made call after call, speaking in rapid Italian, his voice clipped and commanding. I caught words here and there: weapons, positions, extraction. He was planning a war. "Dante." I touched his arm, and he immediately ended his call to look at me. "Please, don't do this. Don't start something that gets people killed just because you what? Made the mistake of walking into my life?" His hand cupped my face. "This isn't your fault. The Volkovs have been looking for an excuse to move against me for months. You're just the catalyst they chose to use." "But Sarah will be fine." He said it with such certainty that I almost believed him. "I have people inside the Volkov organization. They're already feeding me information about where she's being held, how many guards, what weapons they have." His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "I won't let her die, Mia. I promise you that." "Why?" The word came out as a whisper. "Why do you care what happens to her?" "Because you care. Simple. Direct. Devastating. And what matters to you matters to me." The SUV pulled into an industrial area. Abandoned warehouses and rusted shipping containers. The smell of salt water and decay heavy in the air. We stopped in front of a building that looked ready to collapse. But when Dante led me inside, it was anything but abandoned. Men in tactical gear. Weapons on every surface, computer screens showing surveillance footage. It looked like a military operation. "Boss." Luca approached, holding a tablet. "We've confirmed her location. Warehouse 3 blocks south, 12 guards all armed. They're holding her in the basement." Dante studied the screen, his expression unreadable. "Exits? 3. Front, back, and a service entrance on the east side. Defenses? Basic. They're expecting us to negotiate, not attack." A cold smile. "Then let's surprise them." He turned to me. "You stay here. Isabella will keep you company." "Like hell." I grabbed his arm. "If you're going after Sarah, I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. She's my best friend. I can't just sit here while I what? Put you in danger? Risk the Volkovs getting exactly what they want?" He gripped my shoulders. "You stay here. That's not a request." "And if I refuse?" His eyes flashed dangerously. "Then I'll have Marco lock you in the SUV until this is over." We stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, I looked away. "Fine. But you bring her back. You promised. And I keep my promises." He pressed a kiss to my forehead, quick, fierce. Isabella. She doesn't leave this room. Understood? Yes, boss. And then he was gone, taking half the men with him, leaving me with Isabella and 2 guards who looked like they could bench press a car. Isabella gestured to a chair. Might as well get comfortable. This could take a while. I couldn't sit. Could barely breathe. I paced the small room while Isabella watched me with sympathetic eyes. He'll get her back, she said quietly. Dante doesn't fail. Ever. People keep saying that, like he's invincible. In our world, he might as well be. She leaned back against the wall. You know how he got that scar? The one on his face? I shook my head. His father was killed 5 years ago, ambushed by a rival family. Dante was there. Watched it happen. Got that scar trying to save him, she paused. They thought they'd broken him. Thought without his father's leadership, the Moretti family would fall apart. Instead, Dante became something his father never was. Harder, smarter, more ruthless. Her eyes met mine. He rebuilt the entire organization in 6 months, made it stronger than it had ever been, and no one has dared to challenge him since. Until now. The Volkovs. They think you're his weakness. They think if they take something he values, he'll fold. She smiled, but it was sad. They don't understand. Dante doesn't have weaknesses. He has triggers. And they just pulled the biggest one. Before I could respond, gunfire erupted in the distance. I froze, my heart leaping into my throat. What? Stay here. Isabella was already moving toward the door, speaking rapidly into a phone. More guards appeared, weapons drawn, forming a protective circle around me. What's happening? I demanded. The Volkovs brought reinforcements, more than we expected. Isabella's face was grim. It's going to get messy. The next 20 minutes were the longest of my life. I stood there, surrounded by armed strangers, listening to distant gunfire and shouting, imagining every terrible outcome. Dante dead. Sarah dead. All because I'd stumbled into that room last night. Then, silence. Awful, complete silence. Isabella's phone rang. She answered immediately. Status? Whatever she heard made her shoulders relax. Copy that. Bringing her up now. She looked at me. They got her. She's alive. I nearly collapsed with relief. 5 minutes later, the door burst open. Dante strode in, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt stained with blood. Some his, some not. Behind him, 2 of his men carried Sarah. Sarah! I rushed forward, but Dante caught me. She's sedated. They drugged her to keep her quiet. His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. But she's unharmed. Physically, at least. I pushed past him to get to her. She was unconscious. Her breathing shallow but steady. Her clothes were torn, her wrists bruised from restraints. But she was alive. Get her to Dr. Russo, Dante ordered. Full examination. I want to know everything they did to her. What about the Volkovs? Luca appeared in the doorway, his gun still drawn. We have 3 of them alive. What do you want us to do? Dante's expression went cold. Send a message. Make it clear what happens when they touch what's mine. The words hung in the air, heavy with violence. Dante. I touched his arm, feeling him tense beneath my fingers. Please. You got Sarah back. Isn't that enough? He looked at me, and something in his eyes made me step back. This isn't about enough, Mia. This is about survival, about making sure they never try this again. By killing them? By showing them the cost. He turned to Luca. Do it. Luca nodded and disappeared. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that more violence wouldn't solve anything, but I saw the blood on his shirt, the cut on his forehead, the absolute conviction in his eyes. This was his world. These were his rules, and I had chosen to stay in it. Sarah woke up 6 hours later in one of the bedrooms of Dante's penthouse, with me sitting beside her bed and a very expensive doctor checking her vitals. Mia? Her voice was hoarse, confused. What? You're safe. I grabbed her hand. You're in a safe place. Her eyes focused, taking in the room, the doctor, the guards visible through the open door. What the hell is going on? These men. They grabbed me from our apartment. Said they had a message for someone named Moretti. I know. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Your fault? How is this your fault? She tried to sit up, winced. Jesus. What did they give me? Just a sedative, the doctor said smoothly. You're going to be fine. Some bruising, minor dehydration, but no permanent damage. Permanent damage, Sarah repeated faintly. Mia, what is happening? The doctor excused himself, leaving us alone. I took a deep breath. Remember that catering job at the Augustine? Yeah, the one where you were supposed to be home by midnight. She stopped. You never came home. I got complicated. I showed her the ring, the necklace. I met someone, and his world is dangerous. And the people who want to hurt him decided to use you to get to me. Sarah stared at the ring. Are you engaged? No, it's protection. A symbol. I couldn't meet her eyes. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to get caught in this. If I'd known. Who is he? Her voice was sharp now. This guy who's dangerous enough that people kidnapped me. Before I could answer, Dante appeared in the doorway. Sarah's eyes widened. Holy shit. Is that Mia? Is that Dante Moretti? You know who he is? Everyone knows who he is. She scrambled backward in the bed, her eyes wild. He's Mia. He's in the Mafia. The actual Mafia. What the hell are you doing with him? Protecting her, Dante said calmly, stepping into the room. Miss Parker, I apologize for what you went through. It was never my intention for you to be involved in this situation. Never your intention? Sarah's voice rose. They grabbed me off the street, threw me in a van. I thought I was going to die. I understand. And the men responsible have been dealt with. Dealt with, she repeated. What does that mean? Dante's smile was cold. It means they won't be troubling anyone again. Sarah looked at me, her expression a mixture of fear and betrayal. Mia, we need to go. Right now. We need to go to the police. The police can't protect you, Dante interrupted. Not from the Volkovs. Not from anyone in my world. Then we leave the city. We disappear. They'll find you. He said it with absolute certainty. You've been marked now. Associated with Mia. Associated with me. Running won't save you. So what are you saying? That I'm trapped? That I can't go back to my life? I'm saying your life has changed. He moved to the window, looking out over the city. But I can offer you protection, a job in one of my legitimate businesses. Security. A generous salary. Whatever you need to feel safe. I don't want your money. Sarah's hands were shaking. I want my normal, boring life back. That's not possible anymore. He turned to face her. But I can give you something better, something safer. All I ask is that you trust me. Sarah looked at me, her eyes pleading. Mia, tell me this isn't real. Tell me you're not actually with this man. I thought about the past 24 hours. The fear, the danger, the way Dante looked at me like I was precious. The way he'd gone to war to save Sarah, someone he didn't even know, just because she mattered to me. I'm with him, I said quietly. I know it's insane. I know it's dangerous. But I choose this. Why? Sarah's voice broke. Why would you choose this? Because when I was with Dante, I didn't feel invisible anymore. Because he saw me, really saw me, in a way no one ever had. Because despite everything, despite the violence and the danger and the absolute insanity of his world, I felt more alive than I ever had in my safe, predictable life. But I couldn't say any of that, not to Sarah. Not yet. Because he keeps his promises, I said instead, and he promised to protect the people I love. Sarah shook her head slowly. You've lost your mind. Maybe. I squeezed her hand. But you're alive, and you're safe. And that's what matters. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. Excuse me. I need to take this. He stepped out, leaving Sarah and me alone. Mia. Sarah gripped my hand hard enough to hurt. Please. Let's leave. Tonight. We can just disappear. He'd find us. You heard him. Then we go to the FBI. We testify. And become targets for every enemy he has? Spend the rest of our lives in witness protection? I shook my head. This is safer, Sarah. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it is. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Who are you? This isn't the Mia I know. The Mia I know wouldn't defend a mobster, wouldn't wear his ring, The Mia you knew was invisible, I interrupted. She worked double shifts and could barely make rent. She apologized for existing. She let people walk all over her. I touched the necklace at my throat. Maybe I'm tired of being that person, so you're just going to become his... What? His girlfriend? His property? The word stung because it was partially true. I'm going to become someone who can't be touched, I said. Someone protected. Someone valued. I met her eyes. Is that really so wrong? Before she could answer, Dante returned. His expression was grave. We have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? The Volkovs are demanding a meeting. Tomorrow night, neutral ground. His eyes met mine. They want to see you, to verify that you're unharmed and under my protection willingly. And if I refuse, then they'll assume I'm holding you hostage, and they'll come for you. He paused. All of you. Sarah made a small sound of fear. So what do we do? I asked. Dante's smile was sharp and dangerous. We give them exactly what they want. We show them that you're mine, that you chose this, and we make it very, very clear what will happen if they ever threaten you again. The meeting was held in a restaurant, one of those places that closed for private events when people like Dante Moretti needed to conduct business. Sarah stayed at the penthouse with Isabella, and enough guards to protect a president. I went with Dante, wearing a dress that cost more than my old car, and the necklace that tracked my every movement. The Volkovs were already there when we arrived. 3 men, all in expensive suits, all radiating the same dangerous energy as Dante. The oldest, Alexei Volkov himself, stood when we entered. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, with cold blue eyes that reminded me of a shark. Moretti. His accent was thick, Russian. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I didn't have much choice. Dante's hand was firm on my waist as he guided me to the table. You made it clear what would happen if I refused. Business is business. Alexei's eyes shifted to me. And this must be the famous Mia Chen, the woman who has caused so much excitement. I lifted my chin, refusing to show fear. I didn't cause anything. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, dear girl. He leaned forward. You walked into Dante's private meeting. You saw things, heard things. And then, instead of disappearing as a smart woman would, you stayed. You let him put his ring on your finger, his tracker around your neck. His smile was cruel. That's not wrong place, wrong time. That's a choice. A choice she made freely, Dante interjected, his voice hard. Which is what you demanded to verify. So here we are. Verify. Alexei gestured to me. Tell me, Miss Chen, are you here because you want to be, or because Dante Moretti has made it impossible for you to leave? Every eye in the room turned to me. The 2 men with Alexei, the guards stationed at the doors, Dante himself, his expression unreadable. This was it. The moment where I could walk away, tell them I was being held against my will. Let them extract me from Dante's world and return me to my normal life. I thought about my cramped apartment, my dead-end job, my invisible existence. I thought about the way Dante looked at me, the way he'd gone to war to save Sarah, the way he made me feel seen, valued, protected. I thought about the necklace at my throat and the ring on my finger and the choice I'd made in his doorway. I'm here because I want to be, I said clearly. Dante didn't force me, didn't coerce me. I chose this. I chose him. Silence. Then Alexei laughed, a harsh barking sound. Well, that's unfortunate. For who? Dante's voice was ice. For her. Alexei's eyes were cold. You've just made her a permanent target, Miss Chen. Every enemy Dante has will now see you as a way to hurt him. Every rival will consider you a vulnerability. You've painted a target on your back that will never fade. Then I guess it's a good thing I have Dante to protect me, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Alexei studied me for a long moment. Then he turned to Dante. She's braver than she looks, I'll give you that. So, she's stronger than you know, Dante corrected. And under my protection, she'll remain untouchable. Spread the word, Alexei. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong will answer to me personally. And we both know how I handle people who cross me. The threat hung in the air. Finally, Alexei nodded. Message received. The girl is off limits. He stood, buttoning his jacket. But this doesn't change anything between our families, Dante. The war is coming. And when it does, I won't show mercy just because you've found yourself a pretty distraction. I wouldn't expect you to. Dante's smile was sharp, and neither will I. We left the restaurant in tense silence. In the SUV, Dante finally exhaled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. You did well, he said quietly. I told the truth. I know. He took my hand, his thumb tracing the ring he'd given me. But the truth just made you a permanent part of this world, Mia. There's no going back now. I know. And I did. I understood exactly what I'd chosen. He pulled me closer, his forehead resting against mine. I'll keep you safe, whatever it takes. I promise. I know that too. His kiss was soft this time, gentle. A promise and a claim all at once. When we returned to the penthouse, Sarah was waiting. She looked at me, at the dress, the jewelry, the way Dante's arm wrapped around my waist, and I saw resignation in her eyes. So you're really doing this, she said. Yeah, I really am. She sighed. Then I guess I'm doing it too, because I'm not leaving you alone in this insanity. I hugged her tightly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, she muttered. Ask me again when we're dodging bullets. Dante's hand found mine, steady and sure. No one will be dodging bullets, not while I'm alive. And somehow, despite everything, I believed him. 6 months later, I stood at the window of the penthouse, watching the sun rise over the city. So much had changed. Sarah worked in one of Dante's legitimate businesses now, event planning for his hotel chain. She had her own apartment, her own security, her own life within the protection of his organization. I wasn't entirely sure what I'd become. Not his girlfriend, exactly, though we'd grown closer with each passing day. Not his employee, though I'd started helping Elena manage his household and coordinate his legitimate business affairs. His partner, maybe. His equal in ways that surprised us both. The war with the Volkovs had ended 3 months ago, not with violence, but with a treaty. A carefully negotiated peace that gave both families what they needed while avoiding bloodshed. Dante's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. You're up early, he murmured. Couldn't sleep. Bad dreams. Good ones, actually. I turned in his arms to face him. I was thinking about that night, when the police surrounded us. What about it? You told me not to get out, to trust you. I traced the scar on his face, that mark that told his story. And I did. Even though I barely knew you, even though every instinct told me to run. Do you regret it? I thought about the question, about the fear and the danger and the complete upheaval of my life. About the way I'd been thrust into a world I didn't understand. But I also thought about the way he looked at me every morning, the way he valued my opinions in business meetings, the way he'd kept every promise he'd ever made, the way I'd stopped being invisible. No, I said. I don't regret it. His smile was rare and genuine, the one he only showed me. Good. Because I have something for you. He produced a small box from his pocket. Not a ring box. Something else. Inside was a key. What's this? The deed to your old apartment building. I bought it last month. His eyes were warm. Had it renovated. New security, new management, better living conditions for everyone there. He paused. I thought you might want to manage it. Make sure people like who you used to be have a safe place to live. Tears pricked my eyes. He understood. He saw who I'd been, who I was now, and he valued both. Thank you. I whispered. Thank you. He corrected. For choosing to stay that night, for becoming the person I didn't know I needed. He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of promise. Outside, the city was waking up. Somewhere out there, threats still existed. Enemies still plotted. Danger still lurked. But here, in Dante's arms, With his ring on my finger and his protection wrapped around me like armor, I felt safe. I felt seen. I felt home. And when he whispered mine against my lips, I whispered back yours without hesitation. Because that night in the rain, when he'd told me not to get out, to trust him, I'd made a choice that changed everything. I'd chosen danger over safety, power over invisibility, him over everything else, and I would make that same choice again, every single day for the rest of my life.